Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and if you have any interest in buying or selling a home in the Villages, please contact me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. Once again, I would point out two things. The first is to remind you to check the date. We produce this show every Monday, looking at the real estate market here in the Villages. Make sure that you're getting the most recent information. The second thing I would warn you is that all of this information is from the multiple listing service. This does not include any properties that are on the Village Listing Service, the VLS, which has slightly more properties available than the multiple listing service. So let's begin. As always, we start by looking at all listings, and as of today, July the 11th, there are 218 properties for sale in the Villages, which is the same number of properties that were for sale last week. The properties range in price from $169,000 to almost $2 million, and we can take a look at these listings in more detail to see in what price segments they appear. The way to read this chart is that this week there are two homes for sale that cost between $100,000 and $200,000. Last week there were three, the previous week three, the prior week two, and the prior week zero. If we look at the most active price segments, so once again it's the $300,000 to $500,000 price range. In this price range, there are currently 127 properties for sale. Looking at the $300,000 to $400,000 price range this week, 76 properties. Last week, 71. The prior week, 65. Prior to that, 65, and then 54. As always, you should pause this video if you want to examine any of these graphs in more detail. This map shows us where in the Villages these listings are located. We could also take a look at the listing price per square foot and see how it's changing over time. This is the average of all listings of our properties for sale in the Villages. And you can see that over the last 3 months, it does seem to gradually be drifting lower. Currently, we remain under $300 a square foot on average. Next, we'll turn our attention to new listings. And you can see that as we've seen over the last 3 months, new listings over the previous 7 days remain fairly steady. This last 7-day period saw 35 new listings. It seems that 30 to 35 listings has been normal for the last 3 months here. We can also look in more detail at new listings. You can see that over the last 7 days, there have been 14 properties in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range that have been added to the market. The previous 7 days saw 15, prior to that 8, prior to that 15, and the previous 7 days saw none. Next, we'll look at properties that have sold. You can see that activity has really slowed down, as you would expect on a seasonal basis, but the prior 7 days saw only 22 properties close. This is barely above the 19 that we saw close a month ago. This table gives us a more in-depth look at the properties that did close over the last 7 days. 8 properties between $300,000 and $400,000 closed. 6 properties between $400,000 and $500,000 closed. Over the last 7 days, 14 of the 22 properties that closed were between $300,000 and $500,000. Next, we'll look at price per square foot for properties that sold. And I don't know what weight we can give this data since only 22 properties closed in the last 7 days, but we are back near the highs on a per square foot basis on properties that sold. Over the last 7 days, those averaged a $279 a square foot price. Next, we'll turn our attention to time on the market. Listings have finally seen a small reduction this week. We're down to 33 days on average for all listings in the Villages. If we take a look at the amount of time that properties have been on the market that sold, we can see that that is still increasing from a low of 3 days on average at the beginning of May to almost 14 days on average now for properties that have closed over the last 7 days. And the last two things we'll look at are what percentage of listings have had a price reduction. Currently, it is almost 41% of all listings in the Villages have had a price reduction since they were originally listed. If we take a closer look at what the percentage reduction is, you can see that the amount of decrease seems to be growing. The decrease was 4.8% for those properties that had a price decrease. Currently, listings that have a price decrease are looking at over 5.25% as an average decrease. So that concludes this week's look at the market for real estate here in the Villages, Florida. Once again, if you're interested in buying or selling a home in the Villages, please contact me. My name is David, and I can be reached at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com. If you have any questions on real estate in the Villages, or you'd like an estimate of the market value of your home, or any other question, please feel free to contact me. If I don't have an answer for you, I will research to find an answer for you. Hope to hear from you. Take care.